For this series of demos, we're going to go through the process of making an animator versus animation video here in Adobe Animate. The first thing we need to do is set up the background by getting a screen cap of the animate interface. However, to make it easier to view the final video, we want to make sure the window fits in a 16:9 aspect ratio. I have a project set up in Photoshop to use as a reference. It's 1920 pixels by 1080, but zoomed out to 66.6%. Then I can just scale my Animate UI window to fit within that space. And I need to line up the stage so the whole drawing area is white. Then I'm using a program called Lightshot to take screen caps. I just hit the Print Screen button. Then I select the area around the UI. I'm going to trim off the extra to make it perfect in a second. Then I hit Ctrl+C to copy the screenshot, and then in Photoshop, I'm going to hit Ctrl+V to paste the image. Then I'm going to zoom in to get a good selection, and use the crop command to trim the image to just the Animate UI. You can see it's exactly 1280 by 720. Then crop that and copy and paste it to our Animate stage. And you can see it shows up a bitmap in the library. Then here in the Properties window, you can set it to exactly 1920 by 1080, and the X and Y to 0, 0. And then in the library, I'm going to go to Properties for that bitmap, and I'll leave smoothing on, but change the compression to lossless. That will make it a little higher quality. Make sure to do that with all your bitmap assets. So that's our background layer. I'll make a new layer to work on and lock the background layer. Next, we're going to make the cursor arrow. You can go to the mouse settings for your computer and find images of the cursor in different states here to screen cap, but it doesn't look like it has the black version of the cursor that I want. So instead, I'm going to go into the options for Lightshot and enable Capture Cursor on a Screenshot. Then I can print screen, select it, and copy and paste it to the stage as a bitmap. It's kind of small, so I'm going to make it 50% bigger. First, I'll use F8 to make it a symbol, call it cursor. And then inside the symbol, I'm going to select the cursor, and for the width, type times 1.5. And now it should be big enough. It's still pretty low quality, so I'm just going to trace over it with the vector tools. I'll outline it with the line tool. Then we want the outside white, so I'll change the line color and use the paint bucket to fill it black. Oops, it wasn't closed all the way. So I'll drag that endpoint. Now it should work. Then I'll set the image layer to a guide so it won't show up. Then fix the end of the cursor. So now we have the cursor as a symbol we can animate. To do any animation, we're going to need to add some frames to our timeline down here. We're going to have it go over and select the brush tool. If you look at the reel buttons over on the edge, you'll see the cursor and the buttons change shape when you hover and click on them. So we're going to be doing more screenshots to recreate that. But first, let's animate the cursor moving over. I'll add a keyframe where the motion should start, about 3 seconds in, and then about 2 seconds later add another keyframe and move the cursor. Now the cursor should change to white when it crosses the scroll bar, so I'm going to duplicate the cursor symbol to make a white version. Then inside I'll change the white to black, and the black to white. Then I'll position it over the scroll bar where it changes and add a classic tween between those keys. And then set the easing to ease in out quad. Then hit play and see how it looks. Actually, we want it to just ease in because there's a second part to the animation. We'll add a key on the very next frame and swap the cursor symbol for the white version. Then add another key and move the cursor all the way to the brush tool. Then add another tween and set ease to 100 out. Let's turn on the onion skinning so we can get the spacing right. There should be a little space between the keys where it crosses the scroll bar. Then let's move all those keys so the whole thing is faster. So that move looks good. Now let's capture the change in the button states. This time I don't want it to capture the cursor, so I'll turn that off. Then hover over the button and screen cap it and copy. Then I'll make a layer below the cursor, add a keyframe where the arrow is over the button, and paste. It looks like it's going to be too small. I don't want to have to scale it up every time I screen cap one of the buttons, so what we can do is lower the resolution of the project file and then scale it back to 1080p at the end. So in the Properties window, I'll check Scale Content and change the size to 1280 by 720. Delete that. Now when I paste the button, it looks like it's the right size. So we just need to line it up. And let's set the compression to lossless. Then we need to trim the edges of the screen cap a little. So what you can do is Control G to make it a group, then go inside, select and Control B to break it into a shape, and then you can select sections of the image and delete them. So that's the hover state. Now we need the version where the tool is selected. So I'll press the button, copy the screen cap, make a new empty keyframe, and paste it. Then we group it, break it apart, and trim. Then let's be sure to set the compression to lossless too. And we can turn off onion skinning. Make sure it's aligned. And there, we've got the button changing states correctly. Now we need to animate the cursor moving back onto the stage to draw the stick figure. Now when the cursor moves back onto the stage, the cursor for the brush tool looks like this. We need to get it to the size we want for drawing the stick figure. Let's test it out. That's way too thick. Maybe 10 will work. Yeah, that looks good. So now we need to recreate this circle cursor. I'm just going to use the circle tool to create a circle and delete the center. Now if you look closely at the brush cursor, when it's over something black, you can see that it has the black circle, but it also has a very thin white line around the inside and outside. That's so you can still see it if you're over a black surface. First off, let's change the size of the circle to 10 by 10. and the width is 1. Then let's go to Modify, Shape, and Convert Lines to Fills. Now the line is a fill, and we can use the ink bottle tool to add a stroke to it on the inside and outside. Then we change those to white. It looks all white here because the white strokes are covering the fill, so we need to get them behind. Let's make it a symbol, call it cursor_brush. Then inside, let's select the lines and Control X to cut them. Then make a layer below and Control V to paste the lines there. So we've got the black in front and the white behind. Then let's go back out to the main stage. So now if we move the cursor over something dark, you can see it has the white lines. Now on its own keyframe, let's move that over to match the last position of the arrow cursor. Again, if we turn on the onion skinning, we can position it so that the spacing between the keyframes is correct. And now we have the brush ready. That means we can move on to the next step in the process, which will be animating the brush drawing the stick figure.